God, but I want you to look at someone in the room. Just pick someone besides me. And I want you to imagine everything that they've ever gone through in their life. I'll give you a couple of seconds.
Oh.
Okay, whatever y'all are imagining is probably completely wrong because we cannot assume what someone has been through just by looking at them. Now, I don't have any pictures of my sister on these slides, but if you were to see her or even know her, you probably wouldn't assume that just at 7 years old, she had to step up as a parental figure for me and our younger sister because our parents were struggling with addiction. Or you probably also wouldn't assume that for 2 years in foster care, while struggling with her own grief and trauma, she had to support us and comfort us as well. Because of this and her positive communication practices, Dayson inspires me to be more like her. Today, I will talk about Dayson and her impact on my life, retell the story that illustrates her positive communication practices, and connect concepts and values to my story that we've learned this semester in class. So you might remember, but for my story, it was late fall. It was at night, there was a meteor shower going on, and I wanted to lay outside and watch the shooting stars. And then my sister came outside with me, and we just laid down and we were looking at the stars, and we just started talking. And then finally she told me that if past lives are real, I hope you're my sister in every single one of them. And we weren't as close as we used to be, so I felt like that helped us get some of our connection back. And then for my concepts, I have self-disclosure from the textbook from 6.4, which is purposeful disclosure of personal information to another person. An example in my story is just us talking and telling our feelings and our beliefs. And it is illustrated because we were talking about things that we don't usually talk about in order for us to get closer. And then my second one is back channel cues from chapter 5.1 in the textbook, which is generally a form of positive feedback that indicates that others are actively listening. And an example in my story would just be us nodding or just to let each other know that we are actively listening. And it's illustrated because although we weren't making eye contact, which is like a really important cue that we're listening, we were doing other things, and I feel like active listening that night was like really important because we both just wanted to feel heard. And then for my principles and values, my first principle is communication involves both verbal and nonverbal messages, and from the syllabus I have, where is it at? All behaviors have symbolic potential. So us talking, our back channel cues, and even us just being close together, laying shoulder to shoulder, had the symbolic potential of us being closer. And then for my second one, I have messages reveal and impact the nature of the relationship between the communicators. And I have for that from the syllabus that every message we interpret influences in some way how we see the relationship with others. So our messages that we are talking about, our feelings, our beliefs, and just like our love for each other, positively influenced our relationship. And then for my values, I have caring with grace, and from the syllabus it says, understanding and meeting the needs of the people we interact with. So my sister that night knew that I needed her, and I needed someone, but specifically her. I needed our relationship and like how close we used to be. I needed for us to be like that again. And then I have respect, which is actively listening to and showing regard for the idea of others. So we are both actively listening to each other. We were respecting what we had to say. We weren't judging each other like what we were talking about. And then why practicing healthy communication improves quality of life. So from Stevenson University, I have when communication is effective, it leaves all parties involved satisfied and feeling accomplished. So healthy communication improves quality of life because it is the assurance that our messages are being interpreted the way that we mean them to be, and it increases the chances of us having a successful life in our job, like in our career aspects and in our social life. And then from the Atlantic International University, I have healthy communication fosters trust, understanding, and collaboration. So healthy communication enhances growth in some aspects and reduces the anxieties that come with improper and miscommunication. And then here's my works cited. In conclusion, I talked about my sister Dayson and her impact on my life. I told a story that illustrates her positive communication practices, and I connected it back to what we've learned in class. And because Dayson is such a strong positive communicator and such a strong person in general, she inspires me to be more like her. And that's time.
5:30.